Before we dive into this powerful story, if you appreciate heartfelt real-life tales that reveal the hidden struggles behind family bonds, please consider subscribing and turning on notifications. Your support helps us share stories that matter. I stood in the quiet living room of the house I'd quietly held together more times than I could count. Twice before, when my father's back surgery left him helpless for months. Once during the chaos of last winter when the heating system failed just as a bitter cold front swept through. Each time, I was the one who stepped up, wiring money, coordinating repairs, holding the fragile threads of their life in my hands. That afternoon, I wasn't there to fix the furnace or manage the chaos. I was helping Dad scan a pile of paperwork for their insurance, a task he never quite mastered, even after a decade of trying to tame the stubborn printer-scanner combo. He'd always said I had a knack for technology, though my real job was far from IT. I'd been working in project management for years. The dining table was cluttered with a jumble of documents, medical records, some Medicare forms, utility bills, all scattered in neat piles. Then my eyes landed on a cream-colored folder, thick and carefully labeled in Mom's familiar handwriting, estate plan, final copy. I shouldn't have opened it. I knew that. Just a week before, I'd sent the payment for their property taxes, nearly $2,300, and planned to pick up their blood pressure medications afterward. Routine, expected. But curiosity pulled me in. Inside, I found the will. Notarized just 2 months ago. Every last thing, their home, fully paid off, their retirement savings, life insurance policies, all left to my brother, Ethan Reed. 28 years old, no steady job, still living at home. Twice he dropped out of college. Years spent chasing a music career that barely paid for gas or groceries, mostly just noise in the garage and videos that barely broke 100 views. Mom and Dad always insisted Ethan just hadn't found his way yet. My name, Maya Reed, appeared once. A single line, faint and cold. We love both our children equally and trust them to support each other. That was it. No mention of the mortgage payments I'd quietly handled. No recognition of the thousands I'd transferred to keep their utilities on or the grocery runs I made every week. Not even a thank you. Just a polite way of saying, you don't owe us anything, and we don't owe you. I didn't say a word. I just stood there, holding the folder, listening to the soft hum of the scanner, my hands steady but my breath shaky. Dad entered with his coffee, rubbing sleep from his eyes. You getting through all that, Maya? I held up the folder. Is this really how it is? Everything to Ethan. His face fell, the coffee halfway to his lips frozen midair. Then came the long, tired sigh, the kind that spoke volumes without saying a thing. It's not what you think. I didn't answer. Because it was exactly what I thought. He said, almost in a whisper, we thought you'd understand. You've always done well, Maya, they'd said countless times. A code, really, you don't get to want more. I didn't argue. Didn't demand answers or explanations that would never come. Instead, I left the folder lying on the dining table, its presence a silent accusation. I stepped outside, letting the cold air wrap around me, heavy and biting like the truth I'd just uncovered. The old porch swing creaked softly beneath me as I lowered myself down. That swing, I had fixed it myself 2 summers ago, the same week the deck railing splintered and I paid a contractor to replace it. Ethan had claimed he was between paychecks again, so I took care of it without question, because that was always the role I'd fallen into, the fixer, the caretaker, the quiet backbone holding us all upright. I grew up in that house. Ethan and I shared a bedroom until I was 13, a cramped space with faded wallpaper and hand-me-down furniture. When Dad finally finished the basement, it became my sanctuary, a place where I could retreat and breathe. I remember the day we painted those walls a soft blue together, the 3 of us, Dad, Ethan, and me, and how Mom brought us lemonade with that tired smile, calling us her little team. That team had its cracks. I stayed in our hometown after college, turning down a tempting job across the country because Mom said she couldn't sleep when I was too far away. I told myself family came first, that love meant sacrifice. No one ever asked me to choose. They never said, you have to give up your dreams, your time, your peace. It was just understood. Paying the car insurance when they were short. Picking up groceries when the SNAP benefits ran late. Calling credit card companies to waive late fees. Wiring over $13,000 from my savings to catch them up on the mortgage 4 years ago. All done quietly, without complaint, because that was what family did. And yet, after all those years, all those sacrifices, all those silent moments of service, I was nothing more than a footnote. I sat on that swing, staring across the yard at the old oak tree Ethan had carved his initials into, ER+LJ, for some girl from his second high school. I wondered if he ever thought about the tree's maintenance, or the nearly $900 it cost to trim after last year's storm nearly split it in half. Did they ever consider what I gave up? Not just money, but the ease, the peace, the life I might have built elsewhere. Or was I just the one they knew would always be there? The one who never needed to be asked. The hum of the scanner drifted through the screen door behind me, steady and indifferent. A few minutes later, Mom came out, her pale blue cardigan hanging loosely over her shoulders, the same one she wore when the air between us was thick with unspoken words. I didn't look up as she sat beside me, fingers twisting the hem of her sleeve like she was trying to unravel the tension. Maya, she said, voice careful, not too soft, not too sharp. We never meant for you to find out that way. I nodded once. I wasn't going to fill the silence for her. She exhaled, a breath of release but no relief. It's not that we don't love you. We do. Still. I didn't say anything, because what do you call love that forgets your name when it's inconvenient? Her hand found mine, warm but trembling. Ethan's had a rougher time, sweetie. You've always been steady, strong, reliable. Words meant to comfort but felt like chains. Labels that let people take and take without guilt. I pulled my hand away. You could have told me, I said softly. You could have asked. Her gaze dropped to the grass. Then, almost in a whisper, she said the words that cut through the quiet like a blade. We had to co-sign for Ethan. He needed help. The truth landed lightly but sharply. They hadn't just excluded me from the will. They tied themselves to him with real numbers, real debt, real risk. How much? I asked. No answer. Mom. Still silence. Then, finally, 35,000. I stood, the wind tugging at the wind chime above, the soft clink falling silent. I looked at her, not angry, just tired. You didn't choose him because he needed it, I said quietly. You chose him because you already owed him. Her eyes widened, but I wasn't seeking a response. I just hadn't realized the full price I was paying for being the one who always showed up. I paused my help with bills and chores that week without fanfare or drama. No angry phone calls, no harsh words. Just a quiet retreat. I canceled the automatic payments I'd set up for their utilities. Deleted reminders for their prescriptions. Paused the grocery deliveries that came every Thursday. Weeks passed. No one noticed at first. Then came the first messages, Dad texting about a higher water bill. Mom mentioning low sodium crackers running out. Ethan forgetting I'd stopped responding. They assumed I was tired, busy, or just needed space. By the third week, the tone shifted. The mortgage was due, Mom texted, "Can you send what you usually do?" I stared at the screen for a long time, then replied, "Ask Ethan. It's his house now." The call came minutes later, pleading, desperate. But I was done. I didn't pick up the phone. Not the first call. Not the second. And not the third. Their voices were replaced by silence on my end, but inside me, a storm was gathering, slow, heavy, and relentless. They weren't just asking anymore. They were demanding. Begging. Pressuring. We could lose the house if you don't help. That message came late one night. From Mom. Then another, from Dad. You're letting your parents go homeless. The irony nearly made me laugh. Homeless? No. They weren't homeless. They were uncomfortable. For the first time in years, the safety net I had quietly woven for them was frayed and unraveling. The weight of all those months, years, carrying their burdens alone had finally snapped. They were just beginning to understand what I had borne silently. And I had finally begun to live for myself. I turned off my phone. No calls, no texts, no pleas. For a whole week, nothing. The quiet I gave them was louder than any argument we could have had. But silence never lasts. Not in families like mine. A voice broke it, Aunt Laura's, my mother's sister. Her message was hesitant, almost reluctant. I'm not taking sides, she said, but your mom is worried sick. Maybe you should just talk to them. The words were soft, but the implication stung. That was the moment I knew they were already talking to others, weaving their own narrative without me. Facebook told the rest of the story. A vague post from Mom, a photo of the front porch with a sunflower emoji. We gave everything to our children, but sometimes, giving isn't enough. Dozens of likes. A few concerned comments. One from Ethan. Some people think family is about money. They forget it's about showing up. I closed the app, hollow. They weren't just disappointed. They were rewriting the story. Turning me, their quiet caretaker, into the villain. Because I had stopped showing up to be used. The next afternoon, an envelope arrived at my apartment. Plain, unmarked. Inside, a foreclosure notice. Not addressed to me, but unmistakably ours. I sat with it in silence, staring at the paper like it held some secret code I wasn't meant to crack. On the back, I wrote, in shaky letters. Maybe you should have left it to someone who could manage it. I didn't send it. I didn't have to. I checked the county records online. Their home was officially listed as at risk. Behind on payments. No safety net left. They'd burned through the savings, probably trying to keep up appearances, maybe hoping I'd cave before things got real. Ethan had spent it all. Every dollar meant for stability. Gone. There was a time I would have stepped in, called the bank, begged for grace periods, moved money around. But not anymore. That night, I poured myself a glass of water and sat at the kitchen table. And I let the house fall without me. Sometimes, you don't have to set the fire. You just have to stop carrying the water. The fallout was slow but undeniable. First, a subtle post from Mom, vague but pointed. We raised them with love. We did our best. But sometimes love isn't enough. No names. No accusations. Just the weight of disappointment wrapped in sunshine and sorrow. Aunt Trish commented. You two are amazing parents. You deserve better. Then Dad followed with a longer, less subtle post. We gave everything to our children, time, money, love. We thought we raised them right. But in the end, you can't control who turns their back on you. He tagged me. No call. No message. Just a public declaration. I didn't respond. I watched the post gather dozens of likes, family friends, acquaintances I hadn't heard from in years. One wrote, "This generation just doesn't understand sacrifice." And then Ethan chimed in. Of course he did. He shared Dad's post with his own caption. Some people only care when they're getting something. I'd give anything to protect Mom and Dad. Guess not everyone sees family that way. I read it twice. Once more. The same man who hadn't paid rent in years, drained every last cent, and let the house crumble was now painting himself as the hero. The comments were worse. You're such a good son. Your sister should be ashamed. They gave her everything, and she just wanted more. The truth didn't matter. They didn't want the truth. They wanted a story, a narrative where I was the villain and Ethan was the savior. I might have stayed silent. Let the storm pass. But then I saw her name, Kelly. My cousin. The one who once told me, "You're the glue in this family." She liked the post. Left a heart emoji. No comment. But it hit harder than I expected. Maybe because I thought she knew better. Maybe because I thought she saw me. I closed my laptop, sitting in the dark. And for the first time in weeks, something inside me broke. Not loudly. Not messily. Just a quiet, final click. They weren't just rewriting the story. They were erasing me. It was a chilly Thursday morning, the kind that made the breath visible and the air feel sharp against the skin. I should have expected it. The messages hadn't worked. The money requests had been ignored. The guilt had gone cold. So they showed up. I was sitting in my office when the front desk called. "Ms. Reed, your parents are here. And a man who says he's your brother." I froze, staring down at the floor tiles as if the pattern might give me strength. The receptionist continued, "They're asking to come up. Said it's urgent." I drew a slow breath and said, "Please tell them I'm not available. And that they're not expected." There was a pause. "They said they'll wait." I nodded, though no one could see it. I finished my meeting with a calm I didn't feel. Answered 2 emails. Then walked downstairs. They were there by the entrance, standing too close together, like they had rehearsed this moment. Dad was stiff, his posture rigid, as if holding back a lecture. Mom clutched her purse with both hands, eyes darting nervously. Ethan looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. When I stepped through the door, silence stretched between us, thick and heavy. No one spoke right away. I kept my arms crossed, my voice calm but firm. Mom broke it first. "We need to talk." I looked at her, then past her without a word. The street outside was quiet. A delivery van rumbled somewhere far away. Still, no words from me. Dad cleared his throat, breaking the silence. "You'd really let us lose the house over this?" The words hung in the air. I let them. Then, quietly. "Did you really think I wouldn't?" His mouth opened, but I cut him off. "You left me out. You handed everything to Ethan. Now you're here, asking me for the same support I gave for years, without question." No one answered. Mom's lip trembled. "We didn't mean to hurt you." I took a step closer. "Then why did you wait for me to disappear before realizing I was the one holding it all up?" They said nothing. Ethan muttered something, a blur I didn't catch. I said, "You didn't ask for any of this, but you took it." He looked away. Dad's hands rested on his hips now, impatience rising. "We fed you. Raised you. You owe us." I almost laughed. "I paid that debt every month. Every year. And you erased me anyway." Mom's eyes filled with tears. "We didn't mean to." I took another step forward. "Then why did you wait until I stopped showing up before asking for help?" They had no answer. Ethan reached for the door. I raised a hand. Don't. You're not coming up. You're not coming in. I won't be your answer this time. No yelling. No scene. Just stillness. 3 people who once called themselves family, and me. I was done trying to be seen by those who only looked when they needed something. I didn't block their numbers. I didn't need to. The silence I gave them was louder than anything they could shout back. Texts came for a while. Mom tried soft words. Dad went colder, blaming, demanding. Ethan stayed mostly silent. One last message from him. You think this makes you better, walking away? I didn't answer. A few days later, I took a walk. No purpose. Just movement. My path curved past the old neighborhood where I grew up. The cracked sidewalks. The half-painted fence. The house, the one I'd held together for so long. A "for sale" sign sat on the lawn. Faded shutters. Dying grass. I stood on the sidewalk, staring. The porch light was off. The swing I fixed, gone. The wind chime, missing. I didn't move closer. I didn't need to. I already knew what had collapsed. That house never kept me. I kept it. And now it was someone else's problem. As I turned to leave, my phone buzzed in my pocket. Once. Then again. I didn't check it. I already knew the name lighting up the screen. I let it buzz. Then stopped. Buzzed again. Slowly, I pulled the phone out. Missed call. Mom. Missed call. Dad. Then, voicemail. I knew I'd muted the phone. Slipped it back into my coat pocket. No message was needed. I already knew what it would say. I walked home through the cold, slow air of a late autumn afternoon. Not angry. Not vindicated. Just free. I was never their backup plan. They just liked pretending I'd never leave. If you've ever been the invisible pillar, the quiet giver, the one who always showed up but was never seen, know this. Sometimes, the hardest part is realizing that the people you carried never needed you to stay. They just needed you to be silent. Thank you for listening. If this story touched you or reminded you of your own silent struggles, please subscribe for more stories like this, stories that matter, stories that heal.